Hello guys and gals, me Mutahar, and today's video is all about is Google, or really any cloud provider, deleting and censoring you? Now the reason and catalyst for today's video is this image right here. Now I've been seeing this float around a little bit in the last couple days, and this one is basically all about this, alright? Google, your file may violate Google's Drive's terms of services. And the video in question was Kanye Champ's remove video.mp4. Now, for those of you who don't understand, for context sake, Kanye West, also known as Ye now, I think that's what they legally changed their name to. Ye is a wild rapper indeed. While they made some good music, it seems like every time they get into controversy, it's always before some new album drops. Now, Ye has been saying some rather wild things on the internet. I believe there was a bit of an anti-Semitic arc, if you will, an anti-Semitism moment. Now, of course, the actual video here is an interview he did with the Champs podcast. Didn't really stick around too much to see over here, but of course what happened was Kanye said some wild things, and the video started getting removed. Now, I don't know whether this is a valid scenario, whether this image is truly real. I've just seen it float around, and it gained a lot of traction on the internet. People were wondering if Google was censoring what you say. Now, the reality is a lot less interesting than it seems. Now, while I think a lot of people would love to say that, hey, Google is censoring you, big tech is censoring you, the reality is when we agree to use these services, there's a lot of agreements that we sign which allow these services to basically moderate whatever we do. At the end of the day, Google, Microsoft, Apple, any big tech company is a private company first, and you have to abide by their TOS if you want to operate on their platforms. Now, the way that this works is Google is not actually scanning these files in particular, and they're not manually checking through all of your material to see if what you're doing is illegal. Effectively, what's happening is perceptual hashing. Now, let's get started with how this works. Obviously, on YouTube, we know that if we upload copyrighted material, YouTube's Content ID bot will immediately identify it and either restrict that or outright delete it for copyright infringement. And the way that this works is YouTube obviously has perceptual hashes of known copyrighted material or sometimes illegal material. If whatever you upload matches the perceptual hashing of anything illegal that's in Google's blacklist, your video could be removed and you may possibly be reported to some actual legal, law enforcement agency. But we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves. Let's actually get into how this is working. So whenever you upload something to Google Drive, for instance, you are uploading something and you have the ability to share it. Google Drive, OneDrive, Microsoft's OneDrive, Dropbox, really any cloud service that's not requiring you to encrypt your files before uploading them, typically makes you go through some process, okay? You upload the video and it allows you to share it. As much as these platforms are designed for you to back up your material, they can also be used entirely for sharing. Google Drive, for instance, is used heavily in piracy of video games, movies, music, you name it. People upload files and they share it on pirate sites all day. It served as one of the most popular online sharing vectors for pirated content. Obviously, for copyrighted material, Google is always on the lookout for anything that could be breaking its terms of services. If you upload a very recent movie, if you upload a movie in full 4K quality and start sharing it through Google Drive, it'll absolutely shut you down and try to delete that content as quick as it can. But of course, that's not always as simple as it seems. Now, how is it that Google, a service that has tons of gigabytes uploaded to it constantly, is able to do this? Obviously, there's not a human being checking this all the time. There's just not enough people that you can hire to do that job. So how Google does it is through something known as perceptual hashing. So the way that perceptual hashing works is rather simple, okay? Basically, a program, a artificial intelligence, a machine learning, or rather a database looks through the actual images inside video frames, inside pictures, and gives each and every individual aspect in it its own hash, or it creates a hash of what it sees per frame. So typically when you have a video and how it's identified with copyrighted materials is, let's say I upload an episode of Family Guy, right? Now, Family Guy, as a whole episode, is already reported to YouTube's copyright system. YouTube has an exact video perceptual hash list of all these episodes. Now, if I upload a clip of Family Guy, even if I zoom in, invert the content, and change it around a little bit, perceptual hashes allow Google some degree to analyze every frame from new videos uploaded and see if there's common similarities. It's not perfect, and sometimes you can beat the system, but the system improves daily, okay? And with more references, it becomes easier for Google to identify if anything uploaded is breaking copyright, or if anything is potentially illegal. A lot of these systems were designed so that we could combat illegal material on the internet. You may remember a few months ago, actually I think it's almost a year, Apple, when they released iOS 15.2 or 15.3, it was met with some criticism as to Apple actually scanning your photo library or your iCloud library. Here's a few snippets of their iPhone where they said, helping with communication safety. Apple products can help protect kids from sending or viewing photos that may be sensitive, with resources to guide them. On-device intelligence can detect potentially sexually explicit photos in messages and provide a two-step intervention. So of course, when you are sending certain videos that may actually break the law, Apple steps in and tells you, listen, okay, don't do it, this may be bad. Now, to understand how Apple is doing this is they're not actually scanning the photo. The photo actually may produce a hash that matches to a known exploited material. So something knowingly illegal, which a lot of these services have actual blacklist databases of. Every time illegal material is reported and it gets sent to these, a lot of these companies will share it around and add it to the ever-growing blacklist. If you possess images or video files that match the hashes of these illegal materials, you probably have something illegal sitting on your drive, and obviously these services are going to remove it off of their platform and possibly report you. The reason why Google, Apple, or Microsoft, or any of the big tech companies, or really any tech company has to do it, is because it's the law. Just because they allow everyone in the world to upload materials to their website doesn't mean they don't have the due diligence to stop the spread of illegal materials using their platform. If Google, in some cases, has been known to possibly spread illegal materials, and we've seen this before, things like Twitter, for instance, has entire hashtag trends that literally are there just to facilitate the spread of illegal material, of bad things. Obviously, this happens on public-facing, tier 1 social networks all the time. But it's up to these services to put up some form of a fight to combat this as much as possible. While a lot of these services do fight back, ultimately, it is a cat and mouse fight. You're always going to have people using their services to spread shit illegally, and these services are always going to have to moderate constantly to make sure they can stop as much of it as possible. So when you look at the Kanye thing, obviously the video that's uploaded, that's I guess banned at this point, probably violates something regarding the Google Drive's terms of service, potentially around hate speech or anti-Semitism or something that they don't want shared on their platform. The way that this works is if somebody shares that clip and they have outright banned it, when they ban the clip, they store all the hashes in a blacklist, in a registry, and anytime people upload hundreds of versions of that clip, sometimes they could change things, they could zoom in certain parts, they could mess up the image. Point is, the hashes are still going to be there for a comparison, and if Google detects it, they will remove it or disable your accounts or follow with any form of moderation. If you want to avoid any big tech company doing this and you want to properly make sure your stuff is hidden, and I believe it is a right for somebody to hide their stuff or embrace every form of security possible, you can choose to compress these in a password-protected zip file, which oftentimes will probably get away with a lot of this stuff because Google and many other services are not going to go through the effort to crack the encryption or password protection on those folders and get past you, unless of course you're some big time person and they've been subpoenaed by the police or they're in collaboration with a federal agency. You can choose to encrypt this content before you upload it, which typically should protect you. Some encryption formats are a little less safer than others and some are stronger, so it's really up to you to how to handle it. But this is again a cat and mouse race. So let's go look into how this type of stuff works, okay? So here I've got some images. Now these images that I have stored over here come from a gameplay recording of Red Dead Redemption, okay? So right here in this recording file, you can actually see that I have some footage of Red Dead Redemption, played it on my PC, just a little bit of it earlier on, trying not to spoil it. Now obviously I picked Red Dead Redemption just so I can capture some of the actual scenery, which looks really good for this game, but what I'm trying to do is get screenshots out of it. So I've got some outdoors, I've got some inside this cabin, so to speak. In fact, the images that I have are right here. So you can see that I've got 5 images, one of them inside the house, inside this cabin, another one inside the cabin with a different angle, another angle of the cabin, and then of course I've got the outside scenery. So what I'm going to do is show you how perceptual hashing works. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this GitHub project, image cleaner, which basically will allow this Python script to actually analyze all the images and basically identify which ones are similar using the perceptual hashes. So again, if we launch this, you can see very quickly what's happening is, if I can actually just make this, let me actually increase the hash. Giving it a tolerance of 50 allows it to analyze all these images and put them related. So we're going to launch this, and of course you can see that it goes through it really quickly, and it pushes a lot of these images into similar categories. So it did right for these two images, it failed towards the end, and of course the tolerance setting messes around with it. On closer inspection, how this works is really simple. So here, what it's doing is, this is the first perceptual hash that we've launched, all right? So when we launch the project, this person looks like this in the perceptual hash. And of course, as it's scanning, it's looking through all the perceptual hashes for as many similarities as it can, and it's putting those similar images in a folder together. So in this case, it took this image of this person and matched them and put them in a similar category. This is how Google and a lot of these services are doing it. Even if you change the image around or modify it in some cases, you're never going to completely always bypass a perceptual hash. Things will always appear similar, and this is how these sites sort of find these similarities, and that's how they start banning materials. So it's not that they're out there censoring you, it's that you tripped up some machine learning algorithm and you've uploaded something that's already been marked as TOS unfriendly. And of course, these sites don't owe you storage. If you're uploading anything that they deem could potentially be illegal, it's honestly something I endorse them removing. Now, when it comes to uploading things that may be a little on the hate speech side or things that are offensive, that's where we can get into the arguments of censorship. But of course, at the end of the day, these are private companies. It's up to them. Whatever they want, or whatever they want uploaded to their platforms is pretty much all you can get into. And it's this where I actually endorse, if you want to have complete ownership and freedom over your cloud storage, you either use services like Mega, where they actually encrypt your stuff before it's uploaded, so they can't even check it if they wanted to, as far as I understand, or host your own cloud storage. What's really wild about it too is, even if you do make your own things, the reality of Google Drive, or really Google Photos, or really Microsoft OneDrive, or all these hash checking systems, is that even if you're uploading things that they don't agree with, there are still tons of people out there that are creating technologies to circumvent all of this as possible. One of them is the idea of Steganography, which is LSB stenography, which is hiding anything inside files. This is actually one of the ways malware gets spread. So let me show you how this works, okay? So in a simple demonstration, you can take this image of like a road during autumn, and if you wanted to input this image specifically, this image of like this watery, like docks on the water, if you will, you can actually input that as a transparent image, completely hidden within this file. So obviously this file just contains this one image, but this result here contains both the images right there. This is transparently applied right onto this image. You may not be able to identify the differences, but this does contain the actual hidden image. And of course, once this is uploaded, it could possibly bypass a lot of those like hash check systems out there. Now, I know we started us off with talking about, is Google censoring your things? Now, in the beginning, that first image, I could not actually even verify if it even happened. I don't know if Google is outright banning videos related to Kanye West, but when it comes to videos and audio files and picture files, this is how these sites start to ban you or start to remove it from their content or start to remove it from their servers, because they're checking for known hashes. It's not that there's a human being sitting back and actually analyzing tons of gigabytes of footage uploaded. This is one of the most common ways that sites like Google, Microsoft, Apple, Facebook, or really any big tech company is able to audit and control what gets uploaded to their servers. Because it would be really wild if they allowed hundreds of gigabytes of data to be stored that they've once banned, and they're just going to let tons of that take up random space on their servers. If they find out one policy infraction, they're going to remove all the videos related to that policy infraction, period. Sometimes they'll make a mistake, but generally this stuff it works most of the time. When it comes to illegal material that gets shared around, these guys create an ever-growing blacklist that if you are ever uploading content that has hashes matching those known videos, known audio files, known pictures, they will remove it and potentially report you. So is Google out there censoring you? I can't verify that first image, but I can explain how this tends to happen and why it happens. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a wild world to get into. Is the big tech company censoring you? In a lot of cases, they absolutely are. And unfortunately, in many cases, we have to always remind ourselves these are private companies. Every time you upload things to their services for free, you are literally allowing them full access to run hash checks and deny you service whenever they feel like it. If you want complete ownership of what you have and total privacy, you have to learn to willingly encrypt all the stuff that you upload and store off-site, or be willing to do it entirely on your own. I, for instance, have a cloud server myself that I don't need any form of Google Drive, iCloud, whatever you name it. I literally run my own cloud server that I can access from any single part in the world. It costs money, it costs time, but I'm willing to do that for the sake of utter privacy. And when it comes to you uploading content to their services, also understand that nothing in the world is free. If you feel like you're storing content on their services that's going to be there forever, but you may upload something that may potentially be illegal, or in many cases, many real cases, could be something that is copyright infringing, these services are going to remove it. Copyright infringing could be anything. If you're uploading an entire movie as a backup, video games as a backup, anything as a backup, don't be surprised if these services run a hash check at some point and remove it. If you upload content and share it, and that is policy breaking, and somebody reports it to their services, they're probably going to remove it. So today I really wanted to try to answer this question and really teach you how these services go through the extra mile to make sure what you upload is totally kosher and halal for them. Ladies and gentlemen, this is me, Mutahar, and if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. I am out.